Hello, everybody. Hi, my name's Sheena Byrom. Good evening. And I'm a midwife, and I'm also the co-director of Maternity, which encompasses the Practicing Midwife Journal and the Student Midwife Journal. And I direct that with my daughter Anna, who's also a midwife. I'm delighted to be hosting this evening. Usually you have the wonderful Sue MacDonald as your host, but Sue's been really busy because she was running the Irish Festival yesterday. So I've hopped in to do this evening. And it's a great honour because it just gives us an opportunity to really kind of invite guests and look at things that are really matter in maternity services at the moment. So I hope you're going to enjoy this next hour. As you can see, we've got amazing guests with us tonight, and I'm so grateful to them for joining us to actually honour midwives and honour maternity workers in their quest to deliver maternity services, because this evening is going to be all about how we nurture and care for and support each other and those who are providing maternity care. So, and look after ourselves too, how we really take care of what we're doing. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Fatima Ghauoch, who is a passionate Italian-Moroccan midwife. Give us a wave, Fatima. And she's the continuity lead at Northampton Hospital. She's an advocate for women and human rights, and she's against any injustice and an activist for diversity and inclusion. And Fatima is also a voice for Black, Asian and minority ethnic midwives and women. So welcome, Fatima. It's lovely to have you here. And right next to her is the wonderful Sam Tennyson. And Sam is a continuity of carer team leader in the same hospital, Northampton Hospital. She's the founder of Mpilo, which is the voluntary life project that supports Mpilo maternity in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. I hope I've said that right. So Sam is a passionate midwife who's keen to support women and colleagues alike. And I'm lucky enough to have met Sam a couple of years ago at a conference in Northampton. Then we've got Louise Speakman. Give us a wave, Lou.
Hi.
Lou is a midwife educator and empowerer of midwives and future midwives. And she's been a midwife for 15 years, 9 of them spent in practice education and service improvement. She's now a midwifery lecturer at the University of Central Lancashire, but she's got an absolute keen interest and passion for leadership. And she looks after and supports many, many other people. And lastly, we've got wonderful Becca Moore, who's a consultant psychiatrist, and she's the co-founder of Make Birth Better. If you don't know what that is, it's one of the best resources for women and birthing people and families, and also for maternity care workers to help us to make birth better, what it says on the tin. So Becca's passionate about self-care and remaining emotionally well to do our demanding jobs, and she prescribes many self-care tools alongside therapy and meditation to those she works with. And I follow Becca really closely on social media, and I love what she does. So we're really lucky to have you all. Thank you so much for giving up your time. And before we move on to your talks, I wonder if I could just quickly ask you each if you'd managed to get a moment of the week. This is something that Sue usually does, and she asks guests if they've got a particular moment where they want to share with anybody that's listening. So Fatima, shall we start with you?
Absolutely. Particular moment, I think just realizing how important to have next to you someone who can make stronger your strength and can heal your weaknesses.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Sam?
I love listening to music of all genres, but my particular one is gospel music. So on Sunday, I was listening to this song that took me way back to when I was 16. I could remember when I was 16, and it talks about anchoring your faith in God. So I was just remembering at that young age that I used to love that song and thinking about anchoring my life in God. And it so matters now when everything is just looks like everything is crumbling down, that I've got that faith that I can anchor my faith in God. So yeah, that was my best moment of the week. Listening to that song just took me back a bit.
Oh, isn't it amazing how music can really bring back those emotions, whether it's spiritual or whether it's a memory. But it's just, yeah, I find it quite incredible, really. I love listening to music. Thanks for sharing that with us, Sam. Were you in Zimbabwe when you were 16?
Yes, I was. Yeah. So a lot of memories there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Wonderful. So, so over to you, Lou.
Well, other than this is quite a highlight of my week. And the fact that we've started tiling our kitchen after 2 years. I think my actual true highlight of the week was today when I was doing breastfeeding assessments with some final year student midwives. And it was just the absolute joy of realising that they're very close to finishing and becoming midwives, but they already were actually being midwives. And it was really, really lovely listening to them, not just answer questions about the BFI audit that we were doing, but just all of the extra holistic care, and their philosophy was just shining through during those assessments. And it just really made me feel so proud and happy for them, but also for the women that they'll be touching and the care and all the lives that they're going to change. So that was a really lovely moment, seeing them go from very unsure to, you know, actually owning and even talking to them about themselves as, I'm a midwife now. It was lovely.
Well, thank you, Lou. That is exceptionally wonderful. Thank you. Well done for doing that job as well, for supporting our future midwives. Thank you. And Becca?
I'm going to be greedy and have two very quickly. So one is that a lovely woman that I've been working with for a long time who's had very difficult time with sleep. I spoke to her today, and she just for the first week in 10 years had 7 hours sleep a night, and just felt absolutely amazingly different. And that just made me feel so unbelievably happy that she was sleeping and feeling so much better for it. And the second is that we very rarely get snow in London, and so I went for a very early walk with my puppy. It was quiet, the sun was coming up, and listening to the crunch and the crackle of the snow was just really beautiful, because we just don't get very much snow in London. So those are my highlights.
Oh, thank you for sharing those with us. That's brilliant. I love hearing. And yeah, I've seen all the snow in London. I've got family in London, and it is quite exceptional, isn't it, to have that there. So thank you. I suppose what I'd like to do now is just what Sue normally does, and I'm going to follow in her footsteps, is just to give a quick overview of what news has kind of hit my screen and hit my kind of antennae this week. Because first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you, midwives, student midwives, doulas, obstetricians, anyone that's working in maternity services, just to say thank you for the incredible amount of work that you're doing. It's hugely pressured, and we can read and see all about that on a daily basis. And this is for you. This evening is for you. But the news this week has been really kind of, constantly talking about the vaccinations increasing. So that's good. I haven't had mine yet, but I'm looking forward to it. The launch of the National Inquiry to drive action against racial injustice in maternity care, led by Birthright, and that was launched this week, and there's an amazing expert panel. And then in Brighton and Sussex Maternity Services, they've launched their first clinical and language guidelines supporting trans and non-binary birthing people, which is, we think, the first in the country. So that's very exciting as well. So those are the things that have kind of got my attention this week, and I'm sure that hopefully that you know about those things too. I'm going to share my screen for my last little bit of news, and also can't find it now. Where are we? Here we go. I just want to share my moment of the week with you before we hand over to the first speaker. And this, of course, yes, is to say thank you to all of you midwives who are and student midwives, and as I said, anybody working in maternity services. And this photograph was actually taken by Dr. James Kent, who works in London and lives in London. And he's obviously a photographer as well. And this is what he said: I shot this photograph of my wife and her midwife and her midwife moments after our daughter was born. Charlie, that's his wife, laboured on her own for most of the night, receiving support on the phone from her doulas and using the birthing techniques she had learned throughout her pregnancy. Thankfully, her midwife and I arrived just in time to witness Charlie birthing our baby on the antenatal ward. Throughout the entire pregnancy, I'd wanted to capture a photograph of Charlie that encapsulated the strength and bravery that she and so many other pregnant women have shown throughout the pandemic. I knew as soon as I took this photograph that this was the image I'd been looking for. It felt like I was documenting the final moments of a powerful journey that in many ways was just beginning. And what James says is this is a project in its early stages, but he's already been interviewing and organising photo shoots with women whose experiences of getting pregnant, pregnancy and pregnancy loss have impacted on by the pandemic. He's hoping to drive change and raise awareness relating to the way the pandemic has made these experiences more challenging than ever. If you want to get in touch with James, he's there on Instagram under Dr. James Kent. And under Jack Photo. So please do get in touch with him. And I just think this photograph really, for me, it gives me goosebumps, and it really kind of makes me think about how incredible you are all of those of you working in direct contact with women and birthing people and families, how you're all doing amazing work. So thank you for that. And now what I'd like to do is hand over to Fatima and Sam.
Thanks for watching this video from the Maternity and Midwifery Forum. For more expert opinion and analysis, hit the button below to subscribe.